there's going to be a lot of changes in the paid media space. I love LinkedIn as a resource. Like I go there for articles. I go there. I want to be targeted. What do we need to do to prepare as we go forward? We have this looming cookieless environment that's supposed to be coming in 2022.
Today I'm joined by Jennifer Osgood, the Director of Demand Generation for Design Pickle. Design Pickle is one of my favorite companies doing demand generation online. They're just killing it with like the LinkedIn ads I see them doing, and this is why I reached out to Jennifer. They're just so good, and I can see they're doing it really well. So this conversation is really interesting. We go into the future of cookieless browsers and how that's going to affect us advertisers, how Facebook is one of the key source of demand gen for Design Pickle, and especially how LinkedIn ads is actually quite an affordable source of leads for their demand initiatives. So let's jump in with Jennifer Osgood. I just wanted to jump straight in with just starting with you and really understanding how you became the Director of Demand Generation Design Pickle, a little bit of the journey to get there. Was it a difficult journey? It's quite an incredible role. I'm really awed by it because it's such a cool company as well. So just a bit of background of how you managed to get there would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So Design Pickle is such a fun brand to work on. I backing up about 10 years now, 10 years ago, I joined a boutique marketing agency, and that's really where my journey began with demand generation, performance-based marketing, outcomes-driven marketing. The space has evolved a lot over the last decade, and we've seen the channel mix grow. We've seen digital marketing really diversify, become very user-oriented. We know so much about our buyers and about our prospects. So it's been a really fun experience. It's a constant learning program. Really, if you think about marketing and demand generation, there's so much to continue learning about. So yeah, I got my start in the agency world. I would say for anybody who wants to get into demand generation or get into performance marketing, that's a great place to start. You learn about all different programs, all different clients, all different buyers, and you really get that full experience across so many different channels and platforms. So got my start there. And then, flash forward 10 years, I have worked in large organizations. I've worked in boutique SaaS organizations, really across a ton of different verticals, and it's been fun. The one thing that I've learned is that marketing and demand generation, the concept itself is the same. It's just you have to really understand who you're speaking to and who you're trying to connect with. That's what the essence of marketing is. So I found Design Pickle. I was online. I came across the company, and I was intrigued. I was like, what kind of company is named Design Pickle? And as I dove in, I saw that they really cared about the people and the culture, and the work experience itself seemed like it was awesome. And then the product was incredible. So as a marketer myself, having subscription creative services or on-demand creative services was like a novelty. I was like, oh my gosh, how do you actually have a service like this? If I could have this in my life, or if I knew about this previously, I would have been able to accomplish so much faster. So I wound up getting in touch with the recruiting team at Design Pickle, and after a number of conversations, I was like, I have to work here. This is exactly what I've been looking for, and it's been super fun. I've been with the company for less than a year at this point, so really been rolling up my sleeves, getting my hands dirty, and learning. I'd say that's the essence of marketing. It's constant learning.
That's what I wanted to ask, like how, because Design Pickle's B2B, right? It's B2B demand gen kind of stuff. And this is exactly what I am very passionate about as well. And a lot of people listening right now. And it's just a really interesting topic because there's so many different tools coming out. It's very confusing what to use, what not to use. Everything costs a lot of money. I would love to understand what kind of verticals I'm sure Design Pickle is probably doing all of them or most of them really, really well. But maybe we can get like an overview of the main like channels you're using, and by that I mean, say you've got paid media, we can dive into like what specific channels: Facebook, Twitter, whatever, LinkedIn obviously, and then also like outbound, SEO. Just what are the main channels that are working? I think my question is,
Paid social has been our bread and butter for years. Before I even came on, paid social, Facebook ads was really what drove a lot of recognition and volume for the business. Now, Facebook ads has evolved quite a bit over the last few years, even just this year, so many changes, especially with iOS. There's a lot of limitations coming down the pipe. So we've expanded, and that's really where we leaned on LinkedIn. And as a company, we got very granular with who we were targeting and who was our buyer. What was our target persona? So what we've done is we've defined our buckets of personas that seem to be really well aligned with our product and who could really benefit from using Design Pickle's services. And LinkedIn is an awesome space to get really targeted with who you want to buy at affordable CPLs. So, when I first came in, we had some learning to do. The company hadn't done a ton with LinkedIn ads. There was definitely some dabbling happening. But what we've found is that LinkedIn ads performs quite a bit differently from Facebook ads. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as we continue. But paid social has been huge for us. We're expanding our channel mix now. We do some with email. I think there's more opportunity for us to do a lot more with email and lead nurtures. We're looking at how we can partner with third-party industries and newsletters and places where we're not necessarily reaching people on paid media. So we're still exploring that now, and we have some testing to do and some learning to do there. But paid search and organic search are two places where we're just scratching the surface, but we're layering that into some of our paid social programs.
Yeah, I was going to speak about that. Also, like with paid social, do you find Facebook is because who exactly is your ICP? Like, are you targeting the small? I mean, because Facebook's great for certain people, but not so great for like the enterprise level or mid-market or something like this. So yeah, how are you finding, do you separate your buckets? Like, okay, we're going to target certain people on LinkedIn and other people on Facebook, or are you having really good success with your lookalike audiences and targeting on Facebook? Tell me a bit about that. I'm super curious about that. I struggle with Facebook.
Great question. It is different on both platforms. So Facebook lookalikes has been really what has been a lifeline for us. Lookalike audiences in and out have been really the only top of funnel type of audience that has worked for us on Facebook. We've tested interests, we've tested job titles, we've tested so many different things from a top of funnel perspective on Facebook ads, and they just don't drive the outcomes for us. It's lookalike audiences that are doing it there. But for our ICP, we do target small to mid-sized businesses. So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, agencies, and small marketing teams who maybe just don't have the budget for a full-time graphic designer. Or we're a great plugin if they do have a graphic designer and they just need some extra output. So, we have the ability to go after specific roles, specific company sizes on LinkedIn, which we don't have that capability on Facebook. So what we found is the lead gen programs on a top of funnel strategy work really well, and cost per lead is quite affordable on LinkedIn, but direct response campaigns on Facebook ads have been much more effective for us.
Yeah. I'm so happy you say that, because the number one thing people say is LinkedIn ads are expensive, which they can be compared to other, the CPL can be more expensive, but it's really nice to hear that, because I'd love to understand. I guess it's only expensive if you're looking at the cost per lead in comparison to other cost per lead, but not necessarily the cost per, the customer acquisition cost, or if you go further down the line, the sales qualified lead or something like that. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, do you find your sales qualified leads, like, where are they on both platforms? I don't know if you're allowed to give me the exact numbers or like general numbers, but if not, like, in comparison, how far away are they? Are they similar?
They are different on each platform. I would say what we're seeing is that the nurturing cycle from a LinkedIn lead is longer than a Facebook lead. For Facebook, what we've heard as a business is people that tend to purchase after seeing us on Facebook have seen us on Facebook for a very long time. So they're like, hey, we've seen your ads forever. We're ready to buy now. From a LinkedIn perspective, we're often coming in very cold and they're not familiar with Design Pickle. And so there's some work to be done and some nurturing and some conversations to be had. So the sales cycle is longer for those leads. Whereas what we're seeing as far as direct response ads go on Facebook, the sales cycle is a little bit shorter. But We're also seeing that like the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, the people that have the credit card are the ones that are buying as a result of those Facebook ads, whereas there might be more decision makers coming out of some of those companies that we're targeting on LinkedIn. But what we found, you had mentioned that, you've heard some feedback where LinkedIn ads can be very expensive. They can be, but that's where the learning process continues, right? So you want to take a look at the data, what's working, what's not, what type of campaigns are you running? Have you segmented it enough to your target buyer? And I think what we found is once we get granular enough to where we know exactly who we're targeting at specific seniorities or specific job titles at specific company sizes, those leads become much more affordable. Whereas if you go out and go after, let's say, just like all marketers, those leads are very expensive because it's not granular enough.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I'm like, I think what I'm hearing is that you're having success with LinkedIn ads. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like you're having zero
Yes.
success. That's so cool because like people really are struggling with LinkedIn ads. I do LinkedIn ads every day and people are coming to me. I audit their accounts and it's just a mess. Like people try to do the same thing as they come from Facebook and try to do the same thing LinkedIn. And yeah, it just doesn't work that way, does it? It's a bit different.
No, and we found that too, optimizing for conversion, optimizing for web visits, LinkedIn's algorithms function very differently from Facebook. And so applying the same strategies on both platforms just hasn't worked for us. So that might be what you're seeing as well with some of the folks that you've worked with, is that you have to use a different approach on both platforms.
How so let's dive into LinkedIn specifically and LinkedIn strategy. Like how are you guys going for a direct, you're trying to get the lead, or are you going to a landing page? Where's the track? Are you A/B testing this? Like where's the first step you're trying to like send traffic to?
Yes, we're doing both right now. So what we're trying to find is the balance between conversion-based and like web visit targeting with video ads. And we're A/B testing some of our video ads, some of our messaging, some of our calls to action, pushing to our website, and then retargeting those folks who watched the videos or who landed on our website. So we've got a funnel-based strategy. And then at the same time, we're really focused on top of funnel lead gen programs. And so what we've done is we've set up some lead magnets. We've built a number of lead magnets that we feel align with industry demand. So what are some of the things that our buyers care about, like growth and being able to scale an agency? That's a really hot topic, and that's something that we can help companies with. So we've developed strategic content that's aligned to those needs and those pain points, and that's what we put out. But then what we test is the headline, the call to action, the actual landing page, the button. We've got some of our ads that push people to a thank you page on our site, which is great because then we can retarget them with the middle of the funnel campaign. But we're also testing ads where we don't actually push them to the website at top of funnel, but we allow them to download the asset right from that ad. So we're still learning to see what actually works best. And we're going back to our sales team to collect feedback based on the leads that we're driving in and the conversations that they're having. And then we make tweaks based on that feedback.
And are you finding that on LinkedIn, you need to be a lot more sales led rather than marketing led? And what I mean by that, do you need to get your sales team behind each lead, trying to push push them down the funnel? Or how does it work? Because I bet on Facebook, you can just get people to sign up, and then it's a lot easier. But yeah, tell me a bit about that.
Yes, it's a partnership. You have to have your sales team aligned with your marketing tactics on LinkedIn. And so it becomes a very holistic experience so that when that lead comes into our system and they've downloaded the growth playbook for agencies, our sales team is enabled to be able to have an educated conversation about that playbook and where we fit in as a business to help support those goals. So it's definitely a partnership. We work with the sales team quite a bit on an enablement level to make sure that they're equipped to have these conversations and they have the right email content to go out after those ads are pushed.
Are we allowed to jump into some like real numbers, like your cost per lead, maybe like tell me as far as you can down the sales process from cost per lead, marketing qualified, just tell me as far, I don't know if you have your customer acquisition cost or not, but yeah, feel free to give us as much dirt as you can.
Yeah, I can give you some ideas of like what we're seeing. It definitely depends on the audience that we're going after. We've seen cost per leads hover, under $30, depending on the audience we're targeting. We've seen cost per lead go over $100, depending on the audience and how broad it is. So I think that some of the more niche audiences cost less because you can reach them some of the more broad audiences, like I had mentioned, if you go after marketers, that's a really big pool and a really big bucket, and they have different needs. So I think that my advice would be to keep the cost per lead down, dive in. If a marketer is your target audience, we'll explore that a little bit further. What do they do in marketing? What is their actual function? Are they the demand generation director? Are they the creative director? Are they the marketing coordinator? What is it that you're trying to get in front of that person, and tailor your message to that specific buyer, cheerleader, or somebody who might be interested in your product or service. And that will keep cost per lead down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. And like, so you're finding how much more expensive is your customer acquisition cost on LinkedIn versus Facebook? Because this is something that a lot of people are always coming and discussing, like, oh, Facebook's cheaper. I just want to kind of get down and really understand it from something a Design Pickle.
They're different. They're just so different. And I'm finding it harder and harder to compare the two, because the way that we target is very different, and the way that we approach both platforms has really evolved. I would say, for us, we're really honing in on cost per lead and top of funnel lead generation on LinkedIn. So it's tough to compare that, because we're not really running lead gen campaigns on Facebook. We're running a lot of direct response. And so our metrics that we're measuring are a little bit different on each platform. But I would say LinkedIn can be very expensive if not done well, or not if you're not taking a testing and a learning approach where you can throttle quickly. I would say that you could see runaway costs versus Facebook, where if you're really familiar with Facebook and how that algorithm works and how you set up campaigns there, you'd have more learning to do on the LinkedIn side. I would say test, be willing to learn. You're going to have failures, you're going to have wins, and hone in on where you can spend wisely, I would say.
Another question that I've been testing myself with a lot of different people is, and I'd love to see what's working for you, is doing a lead generation campaign on LinkedIn, which is obviously on LinkedIn. We get the lead, and then you have sales follow up, or you have some other kind of flow happening afterwards, versus going to an opt-in page, then maybe a sales page redirect. Do you guys do something I think I saw that. And I'm wondering, do you just A/B test that, or would you say one is better than the other, or just do both?
We do A/B test it. It's interesting. It's so dependent on the campaign and the audience. We're still learning there ourselves to see what actually moves the needle and what works best for us. I would say if you can get them over to your landing page, you're going to have a more opportunity to retarget them, as long as we can still do retargeting. If you can get them to your website, you're going to have more brand immersion, and they'll be able to have the opportunity to also navigate across your site, versus keeping some of those lead magnets native in LinkedIn and not having them leave the LinkedIn platform. They may never really engage with your brand. That's what I'm seeing, is that those that we can push to our website have more brand exposure at the top of the funnel than those where we just give them the lead magnet right on LinkedIn and move along with their day.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of the B2B startups I work with, they haven't quite got the conversion right on the conversions right on their website, on their landing pages. And I think you guys are nailing that, and that's why you can get away with it. But just, the advice I regularly give is try to get the conversion on the gated content first. Make sure it's like a gated content, product to market fit type thing. And then we can move on to that. But yeah, you guys seem to have nailed it. You must have done some serious market research.
We had, and it's been about testing and learning and being willing to still learn. We try to get it down to a science. Some things work, some things don't, but it's really taking a look at that hypothesis-driven testing. So what are we observing that's happening? What can we hypothesize that we could do that might change that outcome? And then we go and we test it and we measure. And so it's constant iteration. And that's the same thing that you would do on a landing page for an ad, right? Is, test different calls to action, test different layouts, test your headlines, your images, make sure that your image aligns to what they see in the ad. Some of those basics are often overlooked and have a really big impact on the user experience and the outcomes.
So just a couple final questions. How is iOS 14 affecting you? Because this is a constant question I get asked as well.
It's a great question. It's something that I feel like we're asking ourselves every week. How is iOS affecting us? You know, to be completely honest, we're not sure yet. We are seeing that it is getting a little bit more challenging to reach people, and we've had to get really granular in some of our ads, our targeting. But we're still monitoring the impact. We're still trying to get an understanding of how has this shifted what we can accomplish, and what do we need to do to prepare as we go forward. You know, we have this looming cookieless environment that's supposed to be coming in 2022, and we know that there's going to be a lot of changes in the paid media space, and so we're still learning as we go, which is an ambiguous answer.
And the final question is just for the people, because I speak to a lot of people who they really want to get into demand generation. They really want to get either as a career or to do it as a freelance, or whichever path they go. But like, what would you recommend for someone who's just getting started? Maybe they're 22, they're just kind of thinking this is a good career. Like, what kind of stuff should they be learning? How should they get started? What should they be doing?
Yeah, such a good question. You know, I would say there's a couple of things. I recommend to everybody getting started, if you can get a job at an agency, that is such a great way to propel your career, because you get such a diverse set of, you get a diverse mix of clients. You get the opportunity to learn while you have others that are helping you learn. You get to be scrappy, you get to work with different budgets, you get to work under different goals, you get to work with different buyers and targets. So that gives you a really nice breadth of experience, and you get more depth, and then that can kind of propel your career from there. You learn quickly. But there's so many resources out there. I would say, you know, just having that willingness to learn, have that learning mindset, enjoying data. That's something that not everybody loves, but demand generation is so data driven. So I would say, if you're not comfortable working in numbers, you don't know Google Analytics that well, start there. Google Analytics has, or Google has so many free resources online. I'd start with some of those free Google trainings, and that's a really great starting point.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today. And would you like, if people wanted to like follow you, find you, how would they do that? Is that on LinkedIn, Instagram? Where would they go?
LinkedIn is the best place to find me. Jennifer Osgood, you can find me there. And yeah, that's the best place. If you have any questions, if anybody wants to reach out and have more conversations, I'm always willing to talk about demand generation and marketing. It's so much fun. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Jennifer. Definitely, we'll definitely catch up some other time properly as well. But yeah, thanks so much.